So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started your brewing journey?
My name is Apiwe Nxusani-Mawela. I am based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I am a brewmaster who's been in the beer space for a very, very long time. How I got in was while I was in high school. I enjoyed maths and sciences, biology, and kind of knew that I wanted to be some sort of a scientist, but not sure what. My parents wanted me to become a doctor, and it was actually when I went into an open day at one of the universities where I was introduced to the study of biotechnology, microbiology. Then I applied for a bursary with then South African Breweries, now part of AB InBev, and I got in the company, trained as a brewer, and never looked back.
Oh, that's interesting. So you created Brewsters Craft, right? I mean, it's South Africa's first Black female-owned brewery. Like, what motivated you to open your own brewery?
Yeah, so when I was still at the big brewery, one of the roles I was employed in was what we call craft specialist within the group. So what that meant was I was in charge of brewing beers outside what the company normally brews. So I used to brew for festivals. I got to appreciate, and I think I got to know more about what was happening in the craft beer space globally. That was a very interesting thing. And at that time, this was back 2012, in South Africa, things were starting to really pick up. People were enjoying my beers, enjoying my creations, and people kept asking me, like, why are you not starting your own brewery, actually? I didn't have the money. But fast forward, I think 3 years later, 2015, I decided to actually leave full-time employment to start my journey with Brewsters Craft. So a brewster is actually one of the terms we use for female brewer. And for me, the company was about celebrating women in beer. Initially, I was doing consulting and training under the company, and then in 2017, I got funding to open up my own brewery, like physical brewery, and that's how we actually got the title of being the first female black-owned brewery in the country.
Well, that's quite interesting.
Yes, I summarized it, but it was actually not that straightforward. It was quite tough.
So, I want to understand, like, what about your beer distinguishes it from the other market, like the other beers in the market?
Yeah, so I think for me, what makes us different is obviously, I think the brewery broke a few barriers, obviously being female, being black, in an industry that is very white, male dominated, and with the consumers of craft being more white rather more than black. So for me, it was, what makes the brewery or the brands different is that we are talking to what I'll call what was initially sidelined. So we're redefining who a craft beer drinker is. Because if you look at, if you Google who the craft beer drinker is, and the pictures that you find are normally men with a beard and an end, and for me it was like, but anybody who wants to drink beer should be able to drink beer, and I think maybe the brands that were there were not really talking to that market. I think obviously that's what I'm trying to do, and that what for me I think sets us apart, and we make very good beers.
I hope we get it here in India. I hope so. So what is your inspiration? Like, where do you draw your inspiration whenever you craft a new recipe for your beer?
Yeah, so for me, I'm very pro-Africa. I'm passionate about the continent, about, how, what we term African Renaissance, the rebirth of the continent. And for me, that's where I get a lot of my inspiration to say, how do I best showcase African beers? How do I best showcase African brewers and what we doing? How do I tell the global brewing industry of all the great things we're doing here in South Africa, in Africa as a whole? And for me, that's where I get the inspiration from the ingredients that I use. I use mainly local ingredients like sorghum. My cider has rooibos in it, so that's where mainly I get my inspiration.
what kind of changes have taken place in the brewery since the pandemic? Like, how have you planned to increase and decrease the DTC sales? I mean, during the pandemic, like due to the pandemic that has affected.
Yeah. So South Africa, we had a very bad. I think also in India, you guys had like lots of alcohol bans. I think, but obviously not being here, it was quite tough. We had total ban on sales. We could not manufacture, could not distribute. So that led to actually my brewery having to close down, which is quite unfortunate. And since then, I've had to contract manufacture just to keep the brand Dologazi going. So that has been quite challenging, and learning how to pivot and maneuver through the difficulties, and through everything else that was happening. And to look at the pandemic as obviously as a global pandemic and not just something that was designed for me specifically, and trying to remain positive and look at the positive side of things. So that's how I've actually just managed to get through it.
What are the challenges that you faced in the role? I mean, because given that you're the female brewer, I mean, like, what challenges did you initially face, like when you started in the industry?
I think like any other, it's one of those questions that if you ask any other female, I think our challenges are very similar, where you are obviously undermined as a female, that brewers are typically male, and what are you on about, what do you know, and especially then when you say you're starting a brewery, where people then start questioning like, are you going to be able to pick up kegs? Do you need help? So just being stereotyped, I'd guess. And for me, how I overcame that is, I think, coming out of the training that I had at the big breweries, and by the time I got into the microbrewing or craft brewing space, I was already a qualified brewmaster. So I think for me that helped, in the sense that as much as people judged, they also understood that I knew what I was doing, I knew what I was talking about. I had the experience. It was not something that I just woke up and did. I've had to learn. So for me that really did help, kind of put my stamp on and be able to be respected as a brewer. Who happens to be female, happens to be black, but I think core for me was always I need people to know me as a very good brewer.
Mm-hmm. I also want to know, like, how do you optimize social media? I mean, for to market your products, because in the world of digitalization, I think social media is now playing a really, really important role. So how do you do that?
Yes, social media has, I think for us being the past 2 years of lockdown, where we were all forced to link up with each other through social media, it opened up us to the global, what was happening globally. Mm-hmm. And we're able to connect easily. Like now we're talking, and we are like miles and miles apart. But social media allowed us to really touch people on all corners. So for me, for the brand, it really, when we were on a lockdown where we could not meet people face to face, being able to use the platforms available, it really helped the brand. I think for me, especially on LinkedIn, that's where we met. Also being able to really link up with, I'll say, network with the right people, and also consumers and some people who were able to, for me, I think, open up certain doors that I probably would never have been able to open had it not been for platforms like LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. So I am very much for, and I believe in the power that exists within these platforms if used right. Right.
Also, what strategies do you employ to achieve distribution and increase your sales?
So I think, the last 2 years of the last 2 years where we've been in the pandemic has also opened us up to a whole lot of things. Especially in South Africa, where online sales were not, people didn't trust, easily trust purchasing online. It was more face-to-face, people walking into bottle stores and didn't really trust that, the platform. And we saw when we had the alcohol bans, everyone was moving to online sales. Everybody got to trust the platform. And for me, that's actually the strategy that I've used also in my business to say, how do I drive more traffic online. I've launched my own online platform and really invested some time and energy on listing on some of the big platforms, which allows actually the brand to be accessible to a wider range of people. So within the country, people that do not stay in my area, they are able now to comfortably purchase, and I'm able to ship to them. So for me, that is a strategy that has worked, it looks. I think even from the numbers that people release, it is quite growing. Like online platforms are fast growing. People are trusting them more, and they're also improving on the service and the delivery.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the beer trends that you think will, you can see in the coming future, like the beer trends that could be trending?
So in South Africa, we follow a lot of American trends when it comes to the beer industry, and then a bit on the European. But looking at the trends, and I think for me, everything that is happening currently is obviously informed by what has happened the last 2 years, and what we've seen, especially from our side, is that we've had with the alcohol bans, people were used to drinking specific brands and were brand loyal. Because we had shortages and alcohol bans, and people couldn't access their favorite brands, they were then kind of forced to try other beers, which then opened up their palates, because now people were, as long as it was beer, they were drinking it. And for me, on the positive, that has opened up people to trying different things, which for us as craft brewers means that, people are more willing now to try a new brand, an unknown brand, and are willing to, not really stick too much on their favorite well-known brand. And that's a trend that is it looks like it's going to continue, especially people are into supporting local businesses, supporting local product, local produce, because there was a time where it was difficult to import anything. So you were kind of forced to try what is really available. And I hope that will be a trend that continues going forward. And then there's a big trend on, obviously, I think there's changes in the packaging. We now, there's been glass shortages. People are moving towards cans. I think globally, can packaging is a trend that's really picking up. And obviously, the different beer styles, where we've brewed IPAs, we've brewed double IPAs. Now we all want to go back to lagers. So I also think the lager trend as a style is also going to continue going up.
Mm-hmm. So are there any new releases for Tolokazi?
Yes, I am. I am planning a few releases this year and collaboration brews. All exciting stuff. So yeah, you can I keep checking up our social media platforms, but obviously we're not available in India at the moment. Maybe, who knows, one day.
Yes, fingers crossed. Yes. So what is what one advice would you like to give the females who want to get into brewing? Is there any advice you would like to give?
Yeah, I think in general, females who want to get in any sort of business, the key motto that I live by is be so good they can't ignore you. And that's coming from it's quite a famous saying. But for me, what that means is that it shouldn't matter whether you male, female, you black, you Indian, you white. Be so good they can't ignore you. If you do what you need to do and do it best of your ability, with as much passion as you can, and you become so good and so great, the other stuff would not matter. So give it your all. the great things will come back to you.
Yes, right. So, like, what's the best part of your job that you enjoy the most? Like, that you love doing with brewery?
Yeah, that changes depending on the day. But I think for me, obviously the creation is quite exciting. Being able to create something from concept to actually in the final product. But I think for me, the greatest satisfaction is seeing or hearing people, taste the beer and comment on it and give good feedback. And that is probably the best part, seeing people enjoy your product, seeing people really appreciate the effort and the time that you put into creating that product. So being so good that they can't ignore you. Yeah.
Which is your favorite go-to drink? Like the one that you enjoy drinking?
I'm actually not that big of a drinker. So I appreciate, I do try out different products depending on what's happening. Like, so now, obviously, South Africa, we're getting into our winter months. So, like, obviously, stouts are quite nice at this time of the year. But I think, you can never go wrong with a very good lager. I enjoy Belgian beers also. Not so much a fan of IPAs, especially once they get to double and triple IPAs. They get too bitter, but I appreciate session IPAs and just nicely brewed IPAs. So I'm a very, I'd say, diverse drinker who appreciates different flavors. So don't have a single one go-to beer.
Okay. Also, like, I want to understand, how do you manage your work-life balance? I feel like in today's time, it is so important that, there should be a balance between work and life, because you are a mother, you are a brewer, right? You're a wife.
Yes.
So, like, how do you manage all of that?
Yeah, it's actually not easy. It's a very tough one, especially in our time now. Where we are what we call independent women trying to become super women. I think for me, what has worked for me is I think having the support structures that I have. I still have my parents, thank God. So, during holidays, my kids are able to go to my parents. I've got a very supportive husband, and I've got sisters who are able to really come in. I think one of the problems I've seen in our generation is that we try to be not cry when we need help. So for me, I've learned that you need to talk up if you feel you need help. Just ask people. There's people around you who are willing to help you. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Our grandmothers used to stay at home and be housewives, so they were able to clean, cook, and raise kids. We can't do that. We're working, so hiring someone to come help you clean, that's not a crime. So just finding that balance to say, what can I do? Who can I call in to help with what? And obviously not forgetting your role as a mother. So you don't just outsource the raising of your kids or the role as a wife. Just trying to make time. So, like, for me, one of the key things I do is, if I've got, let's say I've got a beer festival and they do allow kids, I've got a kids play area, so I will then take my kids with, so then you're able to spend some time. If I've got a work trip, and then I look at, can I not just go with the whole family, and then, you do your normal work for 2-3 hours, the rest of the day you actually then spend time with family. So trying to see how you can actually try make things work, and not drown by yourself and ask for help. For me, that's what has worked.
And what is your idea of good life?
Good life, surrounded by people that really care about you, that really love you, and people that you can share your biggest fears, and people that can celebrate with you your achievements, and people that will be there with you through life's toughest moments, and not just people that are there for the highs. Having good meal, good laugh, good time with family and friends. That's good life for me.
My last question to you is, it's like a general question I want to ask you. So your beers are there in South Africa, right? But like, when are you planning to get it like to the other countries as well? That's something I'm quite interested in knowing. Yeah.
I did have a deal in UK because I wanted to try out the European market. So the beer was very well received on taste, on everything. So I think for me now is just trying to work out, the best way. There's been some interest in the States on the brand, so it is on the cards. I just, obviously these things take time and money, which I don't have, but hopefully soon you will have the logos in India, and I will come meet you face to face.
Oh yes, please do. Yeah. Which is your best-selling beer? Like, which one is the best-selling?
So South Africans are very much lager drinking people. I think so. Our lager is currently the best-selling within, I'll say, the main beer drinkers. Then within what I would call like hardcore craft connoisseurs, the sorghum pilsner, that is currently what people enjoy, because I think it's the complex in flavors. So we use sorghum malt, and I use all South African hops. So just people appreciate the difference in flavor. Whereas the lager is obviously a nice, easy drinking, clean go-to lager that whether you are whatever other beers you normally drink, that's like a beer everybody can do.